An 18-year-old Michigan man has been charged in the connection with the slayings of 3 members of Detroit's LGBTQ community.
And you can see kind of what's going on here. So this home that is surrounded by crime tape, this is where the shooting occurred. And as you mentioned, 3 people are dead. 2.
The night of May 25, 2019, was supposed to be a celebration. On Devonshire Road, a quiet residential street on Detroit's east side, a small house party was underway. The home, belonging to a man named Lance Atterbury, was filled with music and laughter. But just before 5:00 a.m., the sounds of celebration were violently replaced by the sounds of chaos and desperation, captured in a series of frantic calls to 911 dispatchers. The first call came from a man, his voice strained with panic and disbelief.
Can you please have somebody come to this?
What's the address, ma'am? What's the street name?
That's sorry.
What's going on at the location, ma'am?
No, I'm a gay male. I apologize.
That's okay.
Somebody just came in and shot up the house. And 2 of my friends are fatally wounded. It is their desire.
Okay, sir, I'm requesting you to the location now. Are there any injuries?
Yes, serious injuries that you can get right here as soon as possible. Please, please.
I'm requesting, did you see who did the shooting?
So,
The caller was Blair Keys, one of the partygoers. His plea for help was echoed by another survivor inside the house, Armand Matthews, whose call captured the raw terror of the moment.
911 was inside the emergency.
could I want my police get emergency? Somebody just came in and shot my friends.
Okay.
And they were like, please, an emergency. I'm like, I mean, no, not with broke. Oh my God. People are shot in there.
When Detroit Police Department officers arrived at 19,136 Devonshire Road, they were met with a scene of profound violence. The small, single-story brick home was now a crime scene. Inside, they found 2 victims who had succumbed to gunshot wounds. One was lying on the living room couch, the other in a chair. A third victim was discovered on the front driveway. It was a brutal and bloody tableau that offered few immediate answers. The initial assessment by responding officers noted signs of a possible forced entry through a basement window, but the true sequence of events was still shrouded in confusion. The deceased were quickly identified. They were 20-year-old Timothy Blanchard, known to friends as Miami, 21-year-old Alante Davis, who went by Tay, and 20-year-old Paris Cameron. The 2 survivors, Blair Keys and Armand Matthews, were physically unharmed but deeply traumatized. They provided the first crucial details to investigators: a party, a gathering of friends, and then a sudden, masked intruder who opened fire. But who was this shooter, and why had this night of celebration ended in a triple homicide? For the investigators just arriving on the scene, this was the central, urgent question that demanded an answer. Before the house on Devonshire Road became a crime scene, it was a space of fellowship for a group of friends navigating life in Detroit. To comprehend the full weight of the events of May 25, it is essential to understand the 3 individuals whose lives were taken. They were not simply victims. They were vibrant young people with families, dreams, and a community that cherished them. Paris Cameron, 20, was a magnetic presence. A transgender woman of color, she was described by her mother and friends as a beacon of positivity and strength. Paris was an aspiring model and a poet, using her creativity to express herself. She was also a prominent and beloved figure in Detroit's ballroom scene, a vital cultural space that provides community, competition, and a chosen family for many in the LGBTQ+ community. Friends recalled her as a protector, someone who was always willing to stand up for others, and whose laughter could fill a room. Her loss was not just a private family tragedy, but a public blow to a community that looked to her as an inspiration. Alante Tay Davis, 21, was a high school graduate with his future ahead of him. He was a gay man, and like Paris, had found a strong sense of belonging within his circle of friends. He and Timothy Blanchard were inseparable, their bond a constant in the lives of those around them. Friends, remember Alante for his loyalty and his quiet but steadfast presence. He was part of the essential support system that this group provided for one another, navigating the world as young, openly LGBTQ+ individuals. Timothy Blanchard, 20, was known to his friends as Miami. He was a gay man whose personality was often described as fun-loving and outgoing. He and Alante were a pair, a familiar sight together within their community. His nickname reflected an energy that drew people to him. Like Paris and Alante, he was at a point of transition, moving from youth into adulthood, relying on the solidarity of his friends as he forged his path. These were not three strangers who happened to be at the same party. They were a family, bound by friendship and shared experience. They represented a specific and often vulnerable segment of the community, and the space where they gathered was meant to be a sanctuary from a world that could be hostile. The violence that erupted on Devonshire Road didn't just end 3 lives. It attacked the very fabric of that sanctuary. The crucial question for investigators was how this circle of friendship came to intersect with the man who would ultimately end their lives. The gathering at 19,136 Devonshire Road on the night of May 24th into the early morning of the 25th was, by all accounts, unremarkable in its beginnings. The homeowner, Lance Atterbury, and his boyfriend, Brendan Suttle, were hosting a small group of friends. Among them were Paris Cameron, Alante Tay Davis, and Timothy Miami Blanchard. Survivors Blair Keys and Armand Matthews were also present. Joining the group was an 18-year-old named Devin Robinson. The atmosphere was celebratory and relaxed, with guests drinking and socializing. It was a typical get-together for this close-knit circle, a safe space for members of Detroit's LGBTQ+ community. Testimony from survivors would later piece together the sequence of events that unfolded within the small brick house. Devin Robinson was not an outsider. He was part of the social fabric of the evening. As the night progressed and inhibitions lowered, Robinson engaged in an intimate, sexual act with another man at the party. This event, which might have remained a private matter between 2 individuals, became the core of the prosecution's case. What happened in the moments immediately following that interaction that would lead to such a catastrophic outcome? According to witnesses, Robinson's entire demeanor shifted. The celebratory mood he had shared with the others evaporated and was replaced by visible anxiety and panic. He began to express intense fear, not about the act itself, but about the possibility of exposure. He was overheard worrying about what people would say, and that his sexuality would become public knowledge. This fear appeared to be directed specifically at his family. He allegedly made it clear that his participation in the LGBTQ+ social scene was a secret, something he kept on the down low. The party, which had been a space of acceptance for everyone else, suddenly seemed to represent a profound threat to the life Robinson had carefully constructed. His agitation grew until he abruptly left the house. To the friends he left behind, his departure might have seemed sudden or attributable to the alcohol consumed that night. No one voiced suspicion that his distress was a prelude to violence. They believed he had simply gone home. The party continued, its attendees unaware that Devin Robinson was not ending his night. Instead, he was setting in motion a plan that would bring him back to Devonshire Road with fatal intent. In the initial hours of the investigation at 19,136 Devonshire Road, detectives from the Detroit Police Department faced a daunting challenge. The shooter had worn a mask, obscuring his identity from the terrified survivors. With no immediate suspect and a scene of immense violence, investigators began the methodical process of searching for any piece of evidence that could provide a lead. They found it not in a weapon or a fingerprint, but on a small, discarded piece of paper. a time-stamped receipt from a nearby gas station. This receipt would become the first link in a chain of evidence that would expose the killer. The receipt led detectives to a Sunoco gas station just a short drive from the crime scene. They secured the surveillance footage from the time printed on the receipt, which was shortly after witnesses said Devin Robinson had stormed out of the party. The video confirmed their first break. It showed Robinson at the station, his car, and his clothing, providing a clear image of him and a precise timeline of his location after leaving Devonshire Road. With this verified starting point, the investigation expanded. Detectives utilized Detroit's extensive public and private surveillance camera network, a system known as Project Green Light, to follow Robinson's movements. The trail of digital evidence was meticulous and damning. Camera by camera, investigators tracked the path of Robinson's vehicle from the gas station directly to the address of his mother's home. The footage then captured the most critical sequence of the entire investigation. After a short period inside the residence, the cameras showed a figure emerging from the house. The person was wearing different clothing and, crucially, a mask. This masked individual got into the same car Robinson had been driving and traveled directly back toward Devonshire Road. The timeline established by the video recordings was precise, tracking the masked figure to the immediate vicinity of the crime scene just moments before the first frantic 911 calls were made. The police later described the comprehensiveness of this evidence directly to Robinson.
And when you go home, what do you do? Take a shower and go to sleep. Take a shower and go to sleep. You at home that whole time, right? Yes. Till what time? Until like 11 o'clock. A.M. A.m. Next one. Because we have videos of you going in the house and coming right back out shortly afterwards and going back to that house. Okay, we have videos of that. Because you just told me you left out at 11 o'clock, but that's not true. Why? We have actual videos. So either you forgot or you lying to me. Which one is it? I didn't forget. I think I'm sorry. I'll tell you correctly. Well, you did, because we have your video coming out. Going back to the house. So, I did. How you gonna make me? Cameras everywhere. We had cameras everywhere. Right. It's tracks. Traction. Right. Boom, boom, boom. We can piece all that together. Right. No bullshit. I'm listening to you. I need you to hear me. If you're listening, no, right. So I'm just saying. I'm just memory loss or whatever the case may be. I'm telling you what we have. We tracked it on video. Not just tracking from a dog. Of course, we can do that. We did that as well. Boom, boom, boom. In the house. Running. That's a fact.
Further investigation uncovered another disturbing detail. Just 2 days before the party, on May 22, 2019, Devin Robinson, at only 18 years old, had legally purchased a .40 caliber pistol, the same caliber used in the triple murder. The visual timeline constructed from surveillance footage, combined with the evidence of the firearm purchase, created an undeniable narrative. Investigators now had a clear picture. Robinson left the party in distress, drove home, changed his appearance, armed himself, and returned to execute the 3 victims. With this airtight case built on technology and methodical police work, authorities moved in and arrested Devin Robinson. They had tracked the ghost on camera. Now, they had to understand the mind of the man behind the mask. After his arrest, Devin Robinson was brought to a Detroit police homicide unit and placed in an interrogation room. These rooms are designed to be sterile and psychologically imposing environments, free from distraction. For Robinson, it was here, under the intense pressure of experienced detectives, that the carefully constructed walls around his secret life would begin to crumble. The investigators entered the room with a significant advantage. They already had a mountain of digital evidence tracking his every move. Their objective was not just to confirm what he did, but to get him to explain why he did it. The detectives began by laying out the certainty of their case, attempting to bypass outright denial and move directly to the motive. They presented a mixture of authority and calculated empathy, suggesting they understood that something must have provoked him.
I don't want you to say anything right now, but we know that you're responsible for shooting. They had to secure enough to arrest you for the house. Now, we know some other things that happened prior to that. We know some things that they did to you that was not cool prior to that. We know that you were intoxicated prior to that. And when it took you back to the house, some other things happened. Okay. We know exactly what you did, but we want to know why you did what you did. What was your emotional state during that time? We go home and did what you did, but we both men too, and we understand we might have did the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Initially, Robinson was evasive. He reportedly offered denials and claimed memory loss. But the detectives were persistent, steering the conversation away from the act of the shooting itself and toward the party and the secret he was so desperate to keep. They had information from witnesses about his panic after the sexual encounter, and they used it to probe the source of his fear. Was he afraid of being exposed? The conversation pivoted to the subject of his sexuality, which Robinson referred to as down low shit. This was the key. For the first time, Robinson engaged directly with the question of motive, and in doing so, made a critical admission.
That's the thing. Don't nobody know that. Don't nobody know what? Don't nobody know the down low shit. For you? Yeah. Okay. Don't nobody know, not even my mom. Okay. Not my pops, nobody. So, okay. So don't nobody know what you're down low. So, with that being said, that's the point of what we're talking about. Now, were you threatening to be exposed? I ain't mad about. It's the thing that everybody's finding out. You don't want people to find out? No, I'm talking about my family, like my mom and my daddy. You don't want them to find out? They're all these people. That you don't want to find out? Why not? Because I never told them myself. But I wanted to tell them before. You want to tell them what? That you're down low? Yeah, but can't. You want to tell them before this stuff happened? Yeah. Before my son told me. I knew. I look at him. You know what I'm saying? We know our kids. You don't think you have tendencies that they don't know? Or they see people you hanging around, you don't think they know?
In that exchange, investigators believed they had their motive. It wasn't hatred of the victims for their identity, but a paralyzing fear of his own identity being revealed to his family. The alleged confession framed the triple homicide not as a crime of passion in the heat of the moment, but as a calculated act of self-preservation. It was an attempt, prosecutors would later argue, to permanently silence the three people he believed held the power to destroy his life by speaking a single truth. With this confession recorded, the case against Devin Robinson now had a powerful and tragic psychological core. As Devin Robinson sat in a Wayne County jail cell, the case against him became public knowledge. The Wayne County Prosecutor's Office formally announced the charges, and news outlets began broadcasting the horrific details of the triple homicide on Devonshire Road. The identities of the victims, all members of Detroit's LGBTQ+ community, immediately raised public and official questions about the killer's motive.
An 18-year-old Michigan man has been charged in the connection with the slayings of 3 members of Detroit's LGBTQ community. Devon Robinson is facing 3 counts of first-degree murder, along with assault and weapons charges. Police say Robinson fatally shot the 3 victims last month inside a home on the city's east side. The shooting killed 21-year-old Alante Davis, 20-year-old Paris Cameron, and 20-year-old Timothy Blanchard, all of Detroit. Prosecutors say Davis and Blanchard were gay men and Cameron was a transgender woman. Investigators are still trying to determine if an exact motive for the shooting. Robinson was arraigned early Friday and remains in custody.
While the prosecution publicly built its case around a motive rooted in Robinson's fear of being outed, a different narrative was being shaped in a series of recorded jailhouse phone calls between Robinson and his mother, Mallory. These conversations reveal a desperate attempt to control the story and, specifically, to combat the hate crime label that was beginning to form. In one call, Mallory expresses her anger over the public perception of her son's sexuality and the prosecution's suspected motive.
Yeah, everybody making me mad, trying to say, you know, everybody out here trying to act like you gay, right? That shit pissing me off.
And don't let me be out. It's gonna piss me all the way off.
Man, they trying to make it seem like it's a hate crime. Girl walked up to me saying she been knowing you forever.
You said girl walked up to you and said she knew me forever?
Yeah.
And she know how I am. People who know me know how I am.
She was like, I would have never thought Little Devil would have did something like that. If we had the death penalty, they would be trying to give you the death penalty, but they can't. The only thing they can do is give you a natural life in Michigan.
Damn.
So they basically trying to say because you did it because you hate gay people and all that shit. But see, that shit ain't gonna fly. You got sisters and mama that's lesbian. You feel me? You know that's not true.
Exactly.
The calls show a clear strategy taking shape to get ahead of the hate crime allegation, even if it required a stunning admission. In a subsequent conversation, Robinson informs his mother that he has taken a proactive step, directly confronting the issue with investigators in a way he believed would neutralize their theory of the case. He revealed that he had told the police the very secret he was accused of killing to protect.
If it ain't no evidence to charge me by my court date, they gotta let me go.
Not necessarily, Devin. They just can't do what they I did. Because they have nothing against him. And he pled to that shit, but you ain't got to worry about no Kobe Fibbing. You feel me? That's what he was worried about, his Kobe Fibbing.
Right. I told the police I was gay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that should be out the window, that hate crime shit.
Mm-hmm. Well, my thing is, if you ever felt like that way or something, don't be never afraid to come to me with that shit. Don't keep that kind of shit from me.
I'm not.
This was a significant contradiction. The prosecution's entire theory rested on the premise that Robinson's fear of his family discovering his sexuality was so profound that he resorted to murder to maintain his secret. Yet, here he was, admitting his sexuality to the very authorities investigating him, seemingly as a legal tactic. Was this a genuine, albeit delayed, acceptance of his identity? Or was it a calculated move to dismantle the prosecution's argument from the inside? As the case moved toward a trial, this central conflict, the public narrative of a hate-fueled crime versus the private strategy to defeat it, would be put to the ultimate test before a jury. The trial of Devin Robinson began in the courtroom of Wayne County Circuit Judge Dana Hathaway. The legal proceedings represented the culmination of months of police work, community grief, and private turmoil. On one side, Wayne County Assistant Prosecutor Jamie Powell Horowitz prepared to present the state's case, arguing that Robinson had meticulously planned and executed the murders of 3 people to prevent a secret from being exposed. On the other, the defense team, led by Attorney G. Gus Morris, faced the challenge of dismantling a case built on a foundation of digital evidence and the defendant's own words. The prosecution's case was presented methodically, designed to construct an unbreakable chain of events for the jury. The emotional core of their presentation came from the testimony of the 2 survivors, Blair Keys and Armand Matthews. Taking the stand, they recounted the night of the party, describing the initially joyful atmosphere that shifted dramatically after Robinson's intimate encounter with another man. They detailed his subsequent panic and his abrupt departure from the house. They then provided a terrifying first-hand account of the attack itself. A masked figure entering the home and opening fire, turning a place of sanctuary into a scene of slaughter. Following the eyewitness accounts, the prosecution laid out the physical and digital evidence. The jury was shown the trail of surveillance footage, sourced from Project Greenlight cameras and private businesses. They followed Devin Robinson from the moment he left the party, to the gas station, to his mother's home, and then tracked a masked figure leaving that same home and returning to Devonshire Road just before the murders occurred. This video timeline was the skeleton of the prosecution's case. To this, they added the evidence of the weapon. They presented records showing that Robinson, at 18, had legally purchased the .40 caliber handgun used in the killings just 2 days prior, arguing this demonstrated clear premeditation. The final, and perhaps most powerful, piece of the prosecution's case was the interrogation video. The jury watched the recording of detectives questioning Robinson. They heard him admit to living a down-low life, and they heard him state that the only people he did not want to find out about his sexuality were his parents. The prosecution argued this was a direct confession to his motive. The defense, in response, attempted to create reasonable doubt. They argued that the shooter was masked and that witness identification under such traumatic circumstances could be unreliable. They attacked the interrogation, portraying it as coercive and suggesting detectives had planted the motive in the mind of a scared teenager. They pointed to the fact that Robinson eventually told police he was gay as proof that the prosecution's theory was illogical. But the prosecution had laid out a seemingly unbreakable chain of evidence. The question now was whether the defense could find a single weak link for the jury to hold on to. After weeks of testimony and evidence, the case of the People versus Devin Robinson was handed to the jury. For the families of Paris Cameron, Alante Davis, and Timothy Blanchard, the wait for a decision was agonizing. The legal process had laid bare the painful final moments of their loved ones' lives and presented a motive born from a tragic and violent internal conflict. On March 11, 2020, the court was notified that the jury had reached a unanimous decision. The courtroom was silent as the jury filed in. The foreman handed the verdict forms to the bailiff, who passed them to the judge. The weight of the moment was palpable. Judge Dana Hathaway then asked the foreperson to read the verdicts aloud.
Court received a note at 10:06 a.m. indicating that the jury has reached a verdict. You bring the jury out.
All rise for the jury.
Thank you. And has the jury indeed reached a verdict?
Yes.
How do you find the defendant, Devin Robinson, as to count 1, homicide, murder, first degree, premeditated, Alante Davis?
We find the defendant guilty.
How do you find the defendant as to count 2, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Timothy Blanchard?
Guilty.
And as to count 3, homicide, first degree, premeditated, Paris Cameron?
Guilty.
As to count 4, assault with intent to murder, Clifton Blair Keys?
Guilty.
So say you, Mr. Foreperson, and all members of the jury?
Yes.
Thank you. You may be seated. Is that a good day, Attorney Callahan?
Yes.
April 10th for sentencing. The defendant is remanded.
Your Honor, I apologize if that is Passover. Could we do April 13th?
April 13th for sentencing. Does that work, Attorney Callahan?
Yes.
April 13th for sentencing.
Right.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
The foreperson continued, declaring Robinson guilty on 2 counts of assault, with intent to murder for the attack on the survivors, and 1 count of felony firearm possession. He was convicted on all charges. The verdicts confirmed the prosecution's narrative that Robinson had acted with premeditation when he returned to the house on Devonshire Road. On April 13, 2020, Devin Robinson appeared for his sentencing. Given the convictions for first-degree murder in Michigan, the outcome was mandated by law. Judge Hathaway sentenced him to 3 concurrent terms of life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the state, the case was closed. Devin Robinson, now 19, would spend the remainder of his life incarcerated. Justice had been served according to the law, but what did it mean for a community still reeling from the violence? The case sent shockwaves through Detroit's LGBTQ+ population, particularly for Black members of the community. The murders were a brutal reminder of the specific dangers faced by transgender women of color, like Paris Cameron, and they highlighted the destructive potential of internalized homophobia. The motive, as presented by the prosecution, was not a simple act of hate against others, but a catastrophic act of fear, the fear of one's own identity. It was a tragedy that consumed not only the 3 vibrant young people who were killed, but also the young man who killed them. The community was left to mourn the loss and grapple with the complex, painful realities the case brought into sharp focus. In the end, there were no true winners, only the lasting absence of 3 bright lights: Paris, Alante, and Timothy.